Dobar din. I promise you that this will be a good time together. I want to thank the people who introduced me, and I want to thank Synergy University for bringing me and bringing all of these people here together. This is one of the greatest events in the world, and some of the speakers that you will hear today and tomorrow are some of the smartest people I've ever met. They have ideas and insights that can literally transform your entire life. So as we said, it's really important that you take good notes and that you write down ideas. Now, I'm going to give you some great ideas, and I'm going to give them to you in 3 or 4 sections, but I want to first of all ask you a question. And the question is, who is the most important person in this audience? Well, the answer is that you are the most important person in this audience. You are the most important person in your entire world. How do we know? Well, you spend 99% of your time thinking about yourself. So you are the most important person. But here's the point. How important you feel you are determines the entire quality of your life. When you feel that you're important and valuable, when you like yourself and respect yourself, you set bigger goals for yourself, you persist longer, you accomplish more, and more than anything else, the more you like yourself, the happier you are. The more you like yourself, the more you like other people, and the more they like you. So everything in life, and this was a great insight for me as a young man, everything in life can be measured by whether or not it increases your happiness. The only real measure in life is how happy are you. It's not how much money you earn, or it's not the car you drive, but are you a thoroughly happy person? So I began studying this subject early in my career, and I was amazed to find that your self-esteem is like the reactor core of a nuclear generator. It's the reactor core of your emotions, and your self-esteem determines the entire quality of your life. So say these words. Say, I like myself. No. Say it по-русски. I like myself. I can't hear it. Come on. Say, I like myself. Yeah. Now, so when you say this to yourself throughout the day, every time you say it, you smile, and it makes you happy. And when you feel happy, you treat other people better, and you're more happy, and you're more successful. So I began studying the subject, and what I found is that the other side of self-esteem is a feeling of personal power. When you feel powerful, when you feel confident, when you feel that you can set and achieve your goals, when you feel that you can be successful, then your self-esteem goes up and your self-image improves and you feel happy about yourself. And so this feeling of personal power comes from the things you do and the way you do it. And I'm going to give you a series of steps that you can take to dramatically increase your sense of personal power. Now, the more powerful you feel, the more you like yourself. The more you like yourself, the more self-confidence you have. The more self-confidence you have, the bigger goals you set, and the more you persist, and the more that you achieve. And everything starts with what's happening inside of yourself. So here's an interesting question. Which comes first, the thought or the emotion? Well, when I first learned this, I was quite amazed that it's always the thought. It's the thought that comes first, and it's the way that you interpret this thought to yourself that determines the emotion. If something happens and you interpret it in a positive way, you feel happy. If something happens and you interpret it in a negative way, you feel negative. Now, the reason I say this is that because today in Russia we are going through an interesting time. There's a Chinese curse that says, may you live in interesting times. And we're living in interesting times. For the last 3 or 4 days, I've been traveling around Russia speaking on crisis management, crisis intervention, because many people are saying that we have a crisis. But in Chinese, they have a characteristic, and the characteristic that means crisis also means opportunity. So today, we have one of the greatest opportunities in human history. More people are going to earn more money and live better lives in the future in Russia than has ever been possible in all of human history. Yes, there are problems. The economy will go up and down, as it has for hundreds of years, but there are more possibilities and opportunities for you in the future than have ever existed before. However, they will be different than the opportunities of the past. Many people are so busy watching what happened in the past, they don't realize that the real opportunities are in the future. Now, here's a lesson that I learned, is never worry about things that you cannot change. And you cannot change a past event. There are many things in our world that we cannot change. So don't waste any time worrying about things you can't change. Focus on the things that you can change. And the only thing that you can control is the way you think. If you think differently, you feel and you act differently. If you feel and act differently, you get different results and you achieve different goals. So you'll find that top people throughout history are always focusing on the opportunities of tomorrow, whereas average people are always thinking about the problems of the past. All the psychologists and psychiatrists and counselors in the world are helping people talk about their past and what happened in the past and why they feel unhappy about the past. But you can't change the past. The only thing you can do with the past is learn from it and then let it go. So you learn from the past and let it go, and then you turn toward the future. There's a wonderful line, and the line says that when you turn toward the sunshine, the shadows fall behind you. When you look toward the future and all the possibilities for your life in the future, you automatically become happy. The negative events of the past that you can't control fall behind you. And that is your job. Now, I've spoken on this subject all over the world, but there is a characteristic of top people. And by the way, you are some of the top people in Russia today. You are in the top 10%. And why do I say that? It's because statistically, only the top 10% of adults will ever come to a seminar like this. Only the top 10%. The other 90% in their entire lives will never come to a seminar like this. Many of you have had to sacrifice time, you've had to pay money, you've had to suffer inconvenience, you've had to wait a long time, but you are here. And that means that you are either in the top 10% or you intend to be in the future because you're here. And the things that you're going to learn from me and from the other speakers in the next 2 days are some of the greatest ideas that you can use to create a wonderful future for yourself. And remember, the only thing in the world you can control is your own thinking. And if you control your own thinking, the way you think about events, you control how you feel and how you act and the future of your life. So one of the questions that we ask is, what is the most valuable and highest paid work that you do? And when I first heard this question, I didn't know the answer, but then I learned that the highest and most valuable work you do is thinking. And the reason this is so important is because of the word consequences. When I began studying time management many years ago and began writing books and articles, I came across this word, consequences. And it changed my life. What it said is that the consequences of an event determine whether or not it's valuable or unimportant. So therefore, if an event or an action has great potential consequences, it's important. And if something you do has low or no potential consequences, it's not important. So what is the difference between top people and bottom people? You've heard of the 80-20 rule. The 80-20 rule says that in every society, 20% of the people earn 80% of the money. It also says that in every industry, 20% of the companies earn 80% of the profits. Now, this is true worldwide, and it's been true for hundreds of years. So in your society, our society, you have a choice. Do you want to be in the top 20% or do you want to be in the bottom 80%? Now, everybody starts off in the bottom 80%, and then they either make a decision to be in the top 20% or they do not make that decision. And it's one of the most important decisions you make in terms of consequences. So, something is important if it has big potential consequences. Something is unimportant if it has low or no potential consequences. How many people here would like to double their income? All right. If I could show you a simple way to double your income, would you give it a try? Dice da. All right. So, I'm going to give you a very simple technique to double your income. Now, If you increase your productivity and your performance and your output by 25% per year, you will double your income in 3 years. Now that means 2% per month. If you become 2% more productive or better at your work every month, that's 25% per year. That's double your income in 3 years. However, once you do it, you can do it again. And you can double your income again and again. And the highest paid people in our society increase their income 10, 20, 30% each year because they're constantly becoming more productive. So here's a very simple technique, and I will give you 7 more. Very simple technique. Imagine that there's 2 types of work that you do. There's work that we will call work number 1, all right? And this work is work that has big potential consequences. If you do this and you do it well, it makes a big difference in your life and your family and everything else. The other type of work you do are what we call number 2 work, and this work has no potential consequences. So the first category of work moves you toward your most important goals faster than anything else. This other type of work does not move you towards your goals, and even worse, it moves you away from your goals. All the examples of time that you waste doing things of no value. So here's a simple way to become one of the highest paid and most productive people in society is do only number 1 tasks. Do only those things that are moving you every day toward the goals that you say you want to achieve. You want to earn more money, be happier, be healthier, move up in your business, have a nice house and a car, travel. Only do those things all day long. If you only do those things, the things that have great potential consequences, it transforms your life. Now here's another discovery. 95% of what you do comes from habit. And if you do something repeatedly over and over again, what do you develop? You develop a new habit. So what is the difference between people in the top 20% and people in the bottom 80%? And I've studied this for years. People in the top 20% have success habits, and people in the bottom 80% do not have those habits. So you can learn the habits of highly successful people. You can learn the habits of highly paid people. You can learn the habits of people who get into the top 10% and into the top 20%. And you can learn them with practice, because all habits are learnable. All skills are learnable. There is no limit to what you can accomplish if you just simply dedicate yourself to developing the habits of other successful people. When I was a young man, I came across a statistic that you've seen. It said that the average person only uses about 10% of their potential, and the other 90% is left unused throughout their lifetime. Well, recent research shows that that statistic is not true. The average person only uses about 2% of their potential, and the other 98% is stored like treasure buried in the ground, and it's never used. And what do people use their 2% for? Well, they use it mostly for conversation at work and with their friends. They use it for messaging and tweeting. They use it for watching television. Average person watches a screen, 3 to 5 hours per day. Is they're watching a screen of some kind, whether it's a computer or an iPhone or an iPad or a television. And most of what they're watching is in category 2. It's completely irrelevant and unimportant. It makes no difference in their lives at all. But whatever you do over and over again becomes a habit. So today we have an entire generation of people who have the habit of watching screens all the time. And as a result, their lives go very, very slowly. So therefore, you have to ask yourself, is this a good use of my time? Does this work have tremendous consequences for me? So when I came to studying thinking, I said, what is the activity that has the greatest potential consequences for you in your life? And the answer is thinking, because the quality of your thinking determines the quality of your actions. The quality of your actions determines the quality of your results. And in life, everything is results. Now, whatever age you're at, if you look at other people who are successful, there's one quality that successful people have, and that's that they get a lot of results. They are known by everybody as the people who get the most results. They're extremely result-oriented. They think about results all the time. What is the characteristic of unhappy and unsuccessful people? Is they waste most of their time. What do people at work waste most of their time in? They waste it talking to their friends. When they go to work in the morning, they don't go to work, they go and find somebody to talk to. And it's sort of like ducks in the farmyard. Quack, 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 quack. If you go into any business office, everybody's going quack, 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 quack. And then it's lunchtime, so they all go out, quack, 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 quack. And they all come back, quack, 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 quack. And nobody does any work. Everybody is quack, quack, quacking, and then they come in, they check their email, and they check their Facebook, and then they go into quack, quack, and have some coffee, and then they go home. I have noticed that the work day in Russia is from about 8 o'clock in the morning until about 5 o'clock at night. However, when I drive in the traffic, by 3:30 in the afternoon, the roads are full of cars. Why is that? Because everybody who gets off work at 5 o'clock is actually going home early so they can watch television. And they're going home early so that they can get ahead of the traffic. Quack, 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 quack. So most time at work is wasted. So I'll give you another technique to transform your life. It's when you go to work, work all the time. When you go to work, when you start first thing in the morning, just work all day. And don't do anything but your work. If somebody wants to talk to you, quack, 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 you say, yes, but not now. Let's talk after work. Or let's talk on the weekend. But right now, I have to do my work. And eventually, people will stop talking to you. And they'll go and talk to other people and quack, 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 quack. And you will accomplish 2 or 3 times as much each day if you just go to work and start work and work all day long. If you just develop the habit of working all day, you will produce twice as much, you'll be paid twice as much, you'll be promoted twice as fast. And this is true all over the world, no matter what the situation. By the way, I said that this is a great time of opportunity in Russia. Do you know that most of the most successful businesses were started at the bottom of a recession? Most of the most successful careers, including mine, were started at the bottom of a recession. That what happens in a recession is that you are forced to think much better than before. You're forced to make much better decisions. You're forced to make much better actions. You're forced to focus more intently on the activities that have the greatest consequences. And as a result, times of great difficulty are also times of great opportunity for you and for me, because you can grow faster and become stronger today than has ever been possible, perhaps in your lifetime. So don't complain about the difficulties of today, because first of all, we can't do anything about it. And second of all, look into them for the advantages or benefits that they might have for you for the future. Now, here's a second question for you. And I ask this question all the time because when I first heard it, I didn't know the answer. The question is, what is your most valuable financial asset? And when I first heard that, I thought, well, it's my house or my car or my bank account. No, your most valuable financial asset is your earning ability. It's your ability to earn money. Your earning ability is like an oil well that just keeps gushing oil. You can lose everything in your world all back again. So your earning ability is the most powerful and most valuable financial asset you have. And your earning ability, by definition, is your ability to get results that people will pay you for. Now, this doesn't mean that you are not a valuable person. Each human being is of incredible value. But some people's earning ability is much higher than others. And your earning ability is an asset, so it can be either increasing in value or decreasing in value. Now, here's what they found in the studies, the 80-20 rule. They found that the bottom 80% of people, the ones who struggle for money and worry about money all their lives, these people, when they take their first job, will work to a certain level, and then they will level off and never improve for the rest of their lives, unless they're forced to. And so therefore, 10 years after starting work, the average person today is no more productive at getting results than they were after 1 year. But they find that the people in the top 20% are very different. The people in the bottom 80% increase their income about 2 or 3% per year over the years. People in the top 20% increase their income at an average of about 11% per year. If your income goes up 11% per year, you will double your income every 6 or 7 years. And then you will double it again, and then you will double it again, and soon you'll live in a beautiful house, and you'll drive a nice car, and you'll send your children to private schools, and you'll have a nice bank account, and you'll be happy. But if you don't keep increasing your income, nothing good will happen. Now, what is the difference? The answer is the people in the bottom 80% don't learn anymore after they leave school. But the people in the top 20% are always learning new things. And as a result, they are increasing their earning ability. Now, one of my favorite statistics is the measurement of the highest paid people in America. And by the way, these statistics are true in almost every country. They looked at the 500 top executives of the 500 biggest companies. And every year they do this calculation. They find that last year the average person earns about $10 million. Now, this person started off at the beginning, at their first job, with no earning ability, no ability to get results at all. And then somehow today, their companies are willingly paying them $10 million to come to work. What has happened? Well, the average top executive earns 257 times the average pay of the person in their company. 257 times. We're not talking about twice as much or 3 times as much. We're talking about 257 times. Some top executives earn 300 and 400 times the amount paid to the average person in their company. How can this happen? Well, here's what they discovered. Every year, and many people here are in this situation, every year about 1.5% of the population starts work for the first time. They take their first job as adults. And so it's like a big marathon. It's a big race, and everyone lines up, and then the gun goes off, bang, and everybody starts to run. And then, just like a marathon, some people get way ahead, in this case, in the earnings race. The great majority stay in the middle, and some people fall well behind. So they just finished a 25-year study, which I think is one of the great studies on success that's ever been done. They asked, how is it that these people can be earning so much money in paycheck? They're receiving a pay of almost $1 million a month for going to work. And if they lost their job, for any reason, another company would hire them immediately and pay them $10 million a year. How can this happen? So, these researchers at a major university went back and they said, well, these people must be very intelligent. They must have special gifts. They must have special qualities or talents that could enable them to be so successful in life. So they went back and looked at their school records and the records at their first job and their second job. And you know what they found? These people were just average. Even when they started off their work life, they didn't look any different from anyone else. They were just average. But then they all started to practice a single strategy. And this is the strategy that will change your life and your career forever. And it's so simple, you can't believe it. When these people took their first job, the first thing they would do is they would go to their boss and they would say, boss, I want to make a valuable contribution in this work and I want to be successful in this company. What one skill would help me the most to be more successful, to make a more valuable contribution? And the boss would say, well, if you were very good at this, negotiating or team building or selling or reading financial statements, if you were really good at this, then you would be much more valuable than an average person. So they would say, okay, and they would write down the development of that skill as a goal. Just like a lesson plan for a subject in school. If you say you wanted to be a doctor or an engineer, they would tell you the courses that you would have to take to get that degree. So in this case, they would decide, all right, I would need to read these books. And they would ask, what are the best books on this skill? And they would write it down. And then they would ask, what are the best audio programs to listen to for this skill? preferably Brian Tracy audio programs. They're the best. And third of all, what courses and seminars should I attend in order to develop this skill? And finally, what can I do every day to develop this skill? How can I take action? And they would go to work, and they would work on this one skill. Like a sniper rather than a machine gunner, they would work on a single skill. And it might take them a month, and it might take them 3 months, and it might take them a year, but they would work every day on that skill. And here's the magic number. The magic number was 2 hours per day, 5 days per week, 10 hours in all. 2 hours per day of personal study on a single skill, 5 days per week. Now, here in Moscow, how many total hours are there in a week? No, how many total hours? Total hours are there in a week? That's 24 hours per day times 7. You can use a calculator if you like, or you can ask your friend. And the answer is 168 hours. I know this was very difficult for university students to figure out, all right, how many hours in a week. But that's where we start. So there's 168 hours in a week, everywhere. Now, what we're saying is that if you want to go to the top of your field and be one of the highest paid and most successful people in life, take 10 of those hours and invest them in yourself. That's all. And this turned out to be the strategy practiced by all the top people. I have worked with the presidents of some of the biggest companies in the world, and they spend 2 to 3 hours each week reading and upgrading their skills. Do you know who the third richest man in the world is? It's a man named Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett worked delivering newspapers when he was 14 and 15 years old. He would get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and when it was dark and everyone was sleeping, he would deliver newspapers. And he did this for more than 2 years. He delivered 200,000 newspapers over that time, and he earned 1 cent, 1 kopeck, if you like, today 1 ruble per newspaper. And he saved the money, and he grew $2,000, and that $2,000 was his first investment. And he made that investment after careful study, and the investment grew, and so he invested more money, and that investment grew. Last year, his total investments are worth $350 billion, third or fourth largest single company in the United States, one of the biggest companies in the world. Last year, his profits were $25 billion. By the way, $25 billion is good. That's a good amount for one person to grow a company that generates $25 billion in profits. And Warren Buffett has the same schedule almost every day. And what he does is he comes to work and he spends 80% of his time studying and reading in the subjects relative to his business. Only 20% is in meetings or phone calls or anything else. He spends 80% of his time learning new things so he can make better decisions and get better results. So a question I sometimes ask adults, how many hours a week do you spend studying new subjects to help increase your productivity and your value? So they found that these experts, these highly paid people, looked upon earning ability like a ladder. And a ladder has steps, and each step is a skill. And when you learn a new skill, you increase your earning ability. Also, you increase your ability to use your other skills. And each time you learn a new skill, your earning ability goes up. And when you learn a new skill, your earning ability goes up. And each new skill you learn causes you to become more and more valuable, and people will pay you more and more money for the results that you can get for them. Now, if at any given time you decide to stop climbing the ladder of success, you will level off, like most people do, 80%, but then you will begin to decline because whatever skills you have are becoming obsolete at a rapid rate, and they're becoming obsolete faster today than ever before. So if you are not constantly moving up the ladder, you're actually moving down the ladder. And people don't understand why their income is not going up. It's because they are not becoming more productive. They are not learning new skills. They're not working on themselves to become more successful. So, increasing your earning ability is the strategy used by the highest paid people in the world today. Every week they spend 10 hours or more studying new skill, the one skill that can help them the most, and they keep climbing that ladder. And it just becomes a habit. A part of their life is learning, just like a part of your life may be watching television or playing sports or something else. A part of their life is learning all the time. In fact, in some of my seminars, I say, here's a question for you. What are you learning today? All right? In other words, what is the subject that you are working on today? And what you should do is you should ask people at the break, say, what is your subject today? What are you working on? What are you learning about today? And everybody should have an answer. Well, today I'm working on strategy. Today I'm working on sales. Today I'm working on presentations. Today I'm working on team building. Everybody should be working on developing a new skill. A friend of mine wrote a best-selling book a couple of years ago, and basically what it said is whatever got you to where you are today is not enough to keep you there. Today, to go any further, you must develop new skills and new skills. How long does this go on? All your life. For the rest of your life, when you're surrounded by rapid changes in information and technology and competition and government policies, as long as there is rapid change going on outside of you, there must be rapid change and even faster change going on inside of you if you want to be successful. So, the top people are the ones who keep learning new skills all the time. Now, I was reading something in philosophy a couple of years ago, and it said there are only certain things that a person can do for themselves. A person can only breathe for themselves. A person can only eat for themselves. A person can only drink for themselves. A person can only learn for themselves. So the one thing that only you can do is to learn. No one else can do it for you. No one else can give it to you. Only you can learn new things through hard work. And when I discovered the idea of continuous learning, I thought it was like a miracle. I came from a poor home. We never had any money. When I left school, I did not graduate. My first job was washing dishes in the back of a small hotel. And when I lost that job, I got a job washing cars in the wintertime. You know what that's like. When I lost that job, I got a job washing floors with a janitorial service. And I thought washing was in my future. My wife was always giving me things to wash because she says she doesn't want me to lose my skill. So I traveled and I worked on farms. I worked in construction. I worked at laboring jobs. I worked digging wells. I worked in factories, stacking lumber. I worked on a ship in the North Atlantic. I worked at laboring jobs until I was 23 years old. And when I could no longer get a laboring job, like many people here, I got a job in sales. And in sales, I was a complete failure because I had no training. So for 6 months, I worked and worked and worked, and I'm making no success at all. I say starting off in sales with no skills is a wonderful weight loss program, because if you don't sell, you don't eat. And I lost a lot of weight in that 6 months. And so finally, I did something that changed my life. I went to the top man in our company, who was a little bit older than me, but he was earning 10 times as much as I was. And I asked him, why are you so successful? Why are you earning so much money? And he said, well, show me your sales system, your sales process, and I will give you feedback on it. I said, well, I don't have a sales system. I just knock on doors and talk to people until they tell me that they're not interested. And then I go and do it again and again. And I was getting up at 6 or 7 in the morning. I was knocking on doors from 8 o'clock in the morning when people came to work, and I would work all day. And then I would go out and knock on the doors of apartments and homes. And I was working 12, sometimes 14 hours a day. And sometimes I would work 12 hours and not make one sale. And it was a small sale. So he said, no, no, no. He said, that's not the way you sell. He said, the way you sell is by asking questions and then looking for ways to help your customers achieve their goals with our products. And so I went out and I started to ask questions rather than talking. And people started to respond to me differently. And then I began to read books on selling. And then I began to listen to audio programs on selling. And then I began to go to seminars on selling. And every time I learned something new, my sales went up and up and up. Within 1 year, I was earning 10 times as much. I was earning more at the age of 25 than I ever dreamed I would ever earn in my life. I was earning more than my father had earned after 40 years of hard work. I couldn't believe it. What I learned was this, is that every single field has success formulas. It has recipes that you can follow. And that if you do what other successful people do, you finally get the same results that they do. So for the rest of my life, whenever I got into another business, and I've been in 22 different businesses, I would sit down and study. I say, what is the success formula in this business? How do people succeed? What do the top 20% of companies and the top 20% of individuals do? And then I would do that. And I would soon get the same results. And people say, how can you be successful? You've never been in this business before. I said, I just read the books. I just talked to the top people and they told me what to do. Now, Aristotle, back in 350 BC, came up with a principle that changed the world. And it was called the principle of causality, or today we call it the law of cause and effect. In the Bible, they call it the law of sowing and reaping. Sir Isaac Newton, the great physicist, called it the law of action and reaction. And what it says is that for every effect in your life, there's a cause or causes. If you can be clear about the cause or the effect that you want, and let's say the effect that we want is to double our income and then to double it again. All right, so what do? Well, you find someone who's earning twice as much as you in your field, and you go to them and you ask them, how is it that you're earning so much money? And remember, everybody who's earning twice as much was at one time earning half as much. And then they started to do certain things, and now they are earning twice as much. And it's no miracle. And so find out what the top people are doing and develop the habit of doing the same things over and over, and soon you'll be earning the same amount or more. That man that gave me the initial advice, which opened my eyes to the whole idea that you could learn any skill by following proven success methods, that man was working for me a year later. And I was earning more money than he was because he was very successful, but he had leveled off and stopped growing, stopped learning, stopped practicing new skills. So what I did is exactly that. I just kept learning and learning and learning. Now, the rule is that if you do what other successful people do, you'll soon get the same results. And nature is neutral. Nature doesn't say you will be successful and you not, and you a little bit more. Nature is blind. Nature is neutral. Nature says if you will do what other successful people do, you get the same results. That's it. Whether you come from a farm or a poor family, or you have no education, or like in America, Russian immigrants who arrive in America with zero language skills and no contacts are 4 times more likely to become millionaires than average Americans, because they have had to work so hard within the Russian system that when they go to an American system, it seems so easy to earn money. But Russians are 4 times more successful no matter what their background, because you're much stronger, smarter, you've worked harder, you've had to persist, you've had to deal with the Russian winter. Ugh, terrible. So you are in a wonderful position to be more successful. So anyway, what I found in this law of cause and effect is that thoughts are causes and conditions are effects. The thoughts that you think actually create the conditions of your world. Your thought is extremely powerful. If you think clearly about something that you want, it starts to come into reality. And so the question is, what do you think about? Because you become what you think about most of the time. You become what you think about most of the time. So what do you think about most of the time? And we have interviewed thousands and thousands of successful people. Do you know what successful people think about most of the time? One study at the University of Pennsylvania, 350,000 business people, entrepreneurs, like yourself, were interviewed over a 22-year period, and they found that the top 10% thought very differently from average people. The top 10% thought about what they wanted and how to get it most of the time. They're always thinking about what they wanted and how to get it. So what do you think the bottom 80% were thinking about? They were thinking about what they didn't want and who was to blame. This seems to be a natural tendency worldwide. We're always thinking about who is to blame for our problems. We're always thinking about something that happened in the past that we cannot change. So top people think about what they want and the actions that they can take now to get the things they want. And they're so busy taking action, they don't have time to think about anything else. Now here's another discovery, and I spend many hours teaching this, is that you can only think one thought at a time. You can think a positive thought or a negative thought. If you think a positive thought, it pushes out all negative thoughts. If you think a negative thought, it pushes out all positive thoughts. But if you do something repeatedly over and over again, you soon develop a habit. And top people have the habit of thinking a positive thought all the time. And what is the most positive thought of all? Thinking about what you want. Thinking about the things that make you happy. Thinking about the future and where your life is going. And so successful people are always thinking and talking about the future. They could be thinking and talking about the people that they love and their families and their home. They could be thinking and talking about business and money and success. But they're always thinking and talking about what they want most of the time. And so if you develop the habit of thinking about what you want, your life begins to transform. It's almost like a great ship in the ocean. As you begin to think different thoughts, the whole direction of the ship moves, and you go to a different destination. So I find that there are 7 principles, 7 ways that the top people think. I want to give them to you quickly, and I could normally give these ideas over 2 or 3 hours, but they told me that you're some of the smartest people in Russia. Is that true? So you can learn a lot of good ideas in a short time. So let me give you the 7 keys to success. First one is clarity. Number 1, most important key to success, maybe 95% of your success will be determined by how clear you are about what you want. Most people are unclear. They don't really know. If you say to a person, what do you want? They'll say, well, I want to be rich. Or they say, well, I want to be happy. Or they say, I want a happy home, or I want to travel. But these are not goals. These are just wishes. I call these cigarette smoke goals. That's where you take a puff of cigarette, you go, and it just disappears. Most people are organizing their lives around cigarette smoke goals. They just come through their minds, and they just disappear. Like a sound of distant music, it comes and goes. But successful people are very clear about their goals. So I'm going to give you a very quick formula, and this formula will change your life. It's a homework formula, but it's very simple. First of all, there's 7 ingredients or parts of the goal-achieving recipe. The first ingredient is to decide exactly what you want. Be specific and clear. It should be so clear that you can tell a 6-year-old child, and the 6-year-old child could look at you and tell you if you've achieved the goal or not. So your goal has to be simple, and the reason for this is that your subconscious mind, which is what works on your goals, is like a child. And your subconscious mind only understands very simple statements and commands. So when you say you want to double your income, what you do is you say, my goal is to earn this amount of money by this time. That's very simple. My goal, I earn this amount of rubles by this date. A 6-year-old child, a simple subconscious mind could take that and go to work on it. Once you decide on a goal, your subconscious works on it 24 hours a day, as long as it's simple and clear. So number 2 step is to write it down. Only 3% of adults have written goals. And according to 75 years of research, people with written goals earn 10 times as much as people without written goals. People with written goals accumulate 10 times as much money over the course of their life as people without written goals. And what does it cost for you to write down your goals? It costs a piece of paper and a pen and about 3 minutes of your time. If you will write down 10 goals that you want to accomplish in the next year, you'll change your life forever. Everything that you write down, not type, but everything that you write down by hand is immediately saved to your subconscious computer, and your subconscious then works on it 24 hours a day. So step number 3 is to set a deadline. Give a clear deadline. Tell your subconscious when you want the goal to be achieved. And if you don't achieve it by the deadline, set a new deadline. But give your subconscious clear instructions so your child mind can work on it all the time. Step number 4 is to make a list. And make a list of everything you could think of to do to achieve the goal. The subjects that you can learn, the people you can talk to, the actions you can take. Make a list of everything. And it may come out to 10, 15, 20 things. That's step number 4. Once you have a list, then organize the list by sequence. What do you do first? Number 1. What do you do second? Number 2. What do you do third? And make a list and organize the list so you now have a plan. So you have a goal and a plan. At that point, you start to move into the top 3% of money earners in the country. And your whole life takes off. It's almost like an airplane. When you're sitting in the airplane and they take off and it goes boom, boom, and the airplane takes off. This is what happens in your life when you do this. Step number 5, or step number 6, is take action on the first item on your list. Take action on number 1 and do it immediately. The hardest part of achieving your goal is to take the first step. Most people do not have the willpower or self-discipline to take the first step. But once you write down a goal, you always know the first step. You always know the first thing that you need to do. The first step is always clear, and so your job is to take the first step. And when you take the first step, the second step will appear. And if you take the second step, the third step will appear. And step by step, you can accomplish any goal. Henry Ford, who became the richest man in the world at his time, said that any goal can be accomplished if you just break it down into enough small steps and then take the first step. And number 7, and this is what's going to make you rich, famous, happy, and thin. And that is to do something every day on your major goal. 7 days a week, work on your major goal. And as you do, you start to develop momentum and you start to move towards your goal. Now, you've heard about the law of attraction. And the law of attraction is partially true, the way they describe it, and partially not true. The part of it that's true is that the law of attraction does work, and it's very powerful. The part they don't tell you is that it only works when you take action. It only works when you start moving towards your goal. Because as you start moving towards your goal, you start to think about your goal more and more. And as you think about your goal, you send off energy. And this energy begins to attract into your life people and ideas and money to achieve the goal. Anybody who has ever written down a goal and taken the first step is amazed at all the things that start to happen to help you to achieve your goal. Now, if I stopped now and walked off the stage, you have enough information to become one of the most successful and highest paid people in your industry. But there's 6 more principles I want to leave with you. The second principle is competence. Is the top people think about competence or personal excellence all the time. Now, the highest 10% of people in every society earn most of the money. And everyone in the top 10% started in the bottom 10%. You'll find that the number 1 predictor of business success is an excellent product or service in the first place. Number 1 predictor. Number 1 predictor of personal success is that you do excellent work. And there's no way to avoid this, and there's no way to achieve success without offering excellent products as a business and without doing excellent work as an individual. So the turning point in your life, and in my life, is when you decide that you are going to be excellent at your work. And you're going to spend any amount of time and make any investment at all just to become better and better at what you do. So here's a great question, and I'm just going to throw this out to you, and I'm going to ask you to answer it. Imagine that we had a magic wand here, and if you wave this magic wand, overnight, you could become excellent at any one activity, any one skill. If overnight you could become excellent, in the top 10%, one of the best in any skill, what one skill would help you the most to double your income? What one skill would help you the most to double your income? Now, you must know the answer to this question because this is the key to the future. If you don't know the answer to this question, you join automatically the bottom 80% and you just go around in circles like the horse pulling the wheel around in circles all day long, or the donkey. If you don't know the answer to this question, you never get better at your work. You just go around in a circle. But once you're clear about this one skill, you start to use the strategy practiced by the highest paid people in the world today, all of whom started at the beginning with no earning ability. So I'm going to ask you to turn to the person next to you and answer that question. What one skill, if you were excellent at it, would have the greatest positive impact on your life? What one skill would help you to double your income? Turn to the person next to you and tell them your answer. It's okay. Turn to the person next to you and tell them your answer. What one skill would help you the most? You can tell a lot about people by how they answer that question. You can tell a lot about people's future by their answer to that question. As a matter of fact, you can tell the future of a person with great accuracy by how they answer that question. Now, does everyone know the answer to this question? If you don't know the answer, then your goal must be to find out. Talk to your boss. Like the highest paid people did is they went to their boss and they asked their boss. Talk to your coworkers. Look around you. Look at the most successful people in your field and say, what is their most important skill for success? If you don't know, go and ask them, and they will tell you. They will say, the reason I'm successful is because I do this. And you say, all right, that's going to be my goal. And then you write it down, and then you make a plan, and then you take action on developing that skill, and then you do something every day. And a week, a month, a year from now, your whole life will be different. Now, there's a rule that says to achieve a goal that you've never achieved before, you have to develop a skill that you've never had before. You have to become excellent at something that you've not been excellent at before. There's always a price that you have to pay to achieve a new goal, and in our age, it's almost always the development of a new skill. So what is your new skill? When I work with companies, I say, what is the one thing that you offer to your customers that no one else can offer? Some of the other speakers will talk about this in great depth because it's one of the great questions. Why should somebody buy your product rather than buy the product of your competitor? But personally, you can ask, why should somebody hire you rather than hire someone else and pay them the same amount of money? I had a man come to me at my seminar once and he said, this talk about doubling your income is not true. He said, there is no way that my company would ever pay me twice as much as I'm earning today. My company would not do it. And I said, well, let me ask you a question. Does your company pay anybody twice as much as you? Is there anyone in your business who earns twice as much as you do? And he said, well, yes, there's my boss and my boss's boss and this. And he started to think, well, there's lots of people who earn twice as much as me. I said, oh, then we can safely assume that your company is quite willing to pay some people twice as much, but they're not willing to pay you twice as much. Now, why would that be? And he went, like I'd slapped him. And he said, I guess I'm not productive enough. I said, yes, go with God, my son. Now you know the answer. And he walked away. I'm not productive enough. I'm not productive enough. And why aren't you productive? Because you stopped learning and growing years ago. You never become more productive. You never learn new skills. Your company had to pay for you to come to this seminar because you never invest in yourself. Number 3 is constraints. Now, a constraint is a problem or an obstacle that stops you from achieving your goal. So let's keep a goal focus, and let's say that your major goal is to double your income. And you want to double your income as soon as possible. Is that a good goal? That's a good goal. Would you say so? Da, конечно? Yes? All right. So it's a good goal. So you want to double your income as soon as possible. All right. Then ask yourself, what is holding you back? What is holding you back? And what we find in life is that there's always one major thing or factor that's holding you back. This is called the limiting factor. Sometimes we call it the constraint. Sometimes we call it the bottleneck. It's the one thing that is holding you back. It's the one thing that sets the speed at which you achieve your goal. So what is it for you? What's holding you back? Or to turn the question around, why aren't you already earning twice as much? There's lots of people around you who are earning twice as much. There are people who are younger than you who are earning twice as much. There are people who are not as smart as you who are earning twice as much. Nothing will make you angrier than to see somebody who is dumber than you who is earning more money than you. So the question is, why aren't you earning twice as much? And if you look at it, what you'll come up with is your favorite excuse. This is your favorite excuse. My mother didn't love me when I was growing up. My mother loved my sister more than me. My father was not supportive. The government is terrible. My boss is cheap. They'll always come up with your favorite excuse. But here's what we've discovered. The 80-20 rule applies to problems and limitations. 80% of the reason why you're not achieving your goal is inside yourself. It has nothing to do with outside factors. It's all inside yourself. The number one reason there is usually you have not decided to achieve the goal. You wish to achieve the goal. You hope you can achieve the goal. You fantasize about achieving your goal, doubling your income, but you have not made a decision. Because if you make a decision, it's immediately followed by action and continuous action all day, every day to achieve the goal. So if you're not taking continuous action, it means that you have not yet decided to achieve the goal. Now, it may be something else. It may be poor time management. I've had many friends come through my seminars who've tripled their income in 30, 60, or 90 days simply by using good time management skills. Maybe it's lack of self-discipline. That's a major weakness in world life today. We know we should do it, but we cannot discipline ourselves to do it. So we procrastinate and we put it off until maybe tomorrow or maybe next week or maybe next year or maybe never. So lack of self-discipline is what is inside ourselves, and it holds us back. However, self-discipline is a habit that you can learn by practice. It's perhaps the most important habit of all for success is to make a decision to do something and then have the discipline to follow through and work on that every single day. So those are the first 3 keys: clarity about your goals, competence, becoming very good at what you need to do to achieve your goals, and the third thing is constraints or problems that are holding you back. Now, what is it that top people think about most of the time? They think about how to achieve their goals. They think about how to become excellent. They think about how to solve their problems. They're always thinking about how. They're always thinking positively and constructively and in terms of actions that they can take to achieve their goals. Now here's the good news. When you think about your goals and how to achieve them, it makes you happy. So people who are thinking about their goals are happy most of the time. They're more positive. They're more creative. They have better friendships. They have more energy. They get up earlier and they work harder because they have clarity about what they want. So here's the 4th key, and it's called creativity. Now, when I began studying this subject many years ago, I found that each person is born a potential genius. Fully 95% of the population have the ability to function at genius levels. That means an especially creative mind. And by the time we become adults, our levels of creative intelligence have dropped deep into our subconscious mind where we don't use them. And then most people start to go through their lives automatically and without any creativity at all. Fortunately, this creativity is still within you. It is a natural part of your mind and your thinking process. Everybody here is potentially extremely creative. So I want you to imagine that you've just poured a cup of coffee or tea, and you put some sugar in it, and then you taste it, and it has no sugar, no sweetness. What has happened? Well, the answer is that you have not stirred it up. And when you stir it up, then the sugar goes through, and you taste the sweetness. This is what happens to your creative ability as adults, is this creative ability drops to the bottom of your mental coffee cup. And what you have to do is you have to stir it up. And as you stir it up, you start to become creative in every part of your life. Now, how do you stir it up? You stir it up with questions. Many years ago, IBM asked me if I would design a program for them on problem solving and decision making, which is creative thinking. And this was a subject that I was very excited about, so I designed a beautiful one-day seminar for them, and they hired me, which was a great honor, and I gave this seminar all across the country to thousands of people from IBM. And what I learned was that the key to creative thinking is to ask questions. Questions act as what they call a provocation, or sort of like an electric shock. When you ask people really good questions, it shocks them mentally, and they think with creative ideas. When you ask yourself creative questions, it actually shocks you into thinking new ideas. So some of the creative questions you can ask is you can say, why aren't I already at my goal? What is holding me back? Here's a great question used by the most successful companies, and the question is, what if? What if we did this? What if we did that? What if it was possible to do something else? You keep asking, what if it was possible to double my income within 12 months? What would have to happen for me to go to where I am, to where I want to be, in less than 1 year? What if I could increase my productivity? What if I could learn a new skill? What if I could engage in a different activity? So you keep asking, what could I do? And you start to get all kinds of ideas. Now, here's an interesting discovery as well. Once you decide upon your goal and you take the first step, you immediately trigger ideas. You instantly become creative when you have a written goal and a plan and you take the first step. It's almost like electrical sparks. They start to spark, and they start to give you ideas on actions that you can take immediately to move towards your goal faster. This is why people with written goals are much more creative than people who don't have written goals. So many years ago, I learned a special creative thinking technique, which I applied to myself, and I went from being broke to being a millionaire within 5 years. I could not believe it. And so I've shared it with other people, and they achieved the same results and sometimes much better results. Many of my friends who have used this idea are very, very, very wealthy today. It's the most powerful form of creative thinking ever discovered. It is so simple that it should be illegal. This simple technique will make you rich. And what you do is this, is you take a sheet of paper, and at the top of the sheet of the paper, you write your major goal as a question. And let's say your major goal is to double your income. So you say, how can I double my income within 12 months? Or how can I double my income by November 1st, 2016? So the question has to be so clear and simple that it's easy to generate answers. And then you start to write down every answer you can think of. You could say, well, what should I do more of? What should I do less of? What should I start doing? What should I stop doing? And then what would be the opposite of those? And then what should I learn? And what subject should I do? And who should I talk to? And what problems do I need to solve? And you keep writing until you have 20 answers to your question. Now, we call this the 20 answer method. You can write more than 20 answers, but 20 is the key. I used to conduct a coaching program for business owners, and I would promise them that if they came to my program, they would double their income within 12 months. And other than that, the entire program would be free. And in the course of 7 years, and 2,000 or 3,000 business owners, not one person ever asked for their money back. Now, I didn't want to give their money back, so I had to be sure that they doubled their income, because that was my guarantee. So what did I do? The coaching program was 4 days, 1 full day every 90 days. So they would come and work with me and another group of business owners for 1 full day going through exercises. The first one we gave them was the 10-goal method, writing down 10 goals. Then we would have them pick their most important goal, and we would do the 20-idea method on that goal. Every one of them doubled their income within 12 months. Some people doubled their income within 7 days. Not one person in 7 years ever asked for their money back. They all earned more money than they'd ever dreamed of in their lives. Some people had tripled their income in 30 and 60 days after working in the same field for 10 years. So what does it take to use this? Well, write your major goal as a question at the top of the page. Generate at least 20 answers. Now, when I do this, by the way, because my mind is very flexible, I will sometimes write 25 and 30 and 35 answers. It's just amazing. And then what you do is you look at your list and you say, all right, what one idea should I apply immediately? So you go down your list and you say, this is the first thing I should do. And then what you do is you take the first step. Take action on your first idea. Now what happens here, and there's a lot of research on this method, is that when you take action on one idea, you spark more ideas. Not only that, when you take action on one idea, you find yourself taking action on other ideas as well. And it's like stepping on the accelerator of your car on the open road. As you begin to apply these ideas, you're going to go, and you start to move faster towards your goals. You start to attract more people and circumstances that can help you, and your goals start to move faster toward you. And what does it cost? A piece of paper. Just costs a piece of paper. Everything that I told you today has no monetary cost. It costs a piece of paper, a little bit of ink, not too much, and a little bit of self-discipline. And if you do these 3 things, write down your goals, decide your most important skill, decide the one idea that you can use to move towards your goal. These are very simple things, but they transform your life. And I know because I've taught these ideas to more than 5 million people in 74 countries. And people come back and they say, you changed my life. You made me rich. I could not believe that idea was so simple. I went home that day and I tried out the idea. You won't believe what's happened to me. I've heard those words thousands and thousands of times, including here in Moscow and in St. Petersburg and in Voronezh and in Kazan and in Ekaterinburg this week. And they come up to me and they say, you won't believe what has happened to me since I came to your seminar. You won't believe what's happened to me. You made me rich. You made me rich. I had a gentleman in St. Petersburg last week, and he said, when you came here in July, you told us to write down 10 goals and pick one goal and then work on it all the time. Think about it all the time. And so I only wrote 8 goals, he said. But now, 3 months later, I've accomplished 5 of the 8 goals. And these were big goals for my life. I've accomplished 5 of the 8 goals. He said, I've tripled my income. Another person told me the size of their business had grown 500%. I mean, they said it's unbelievable what happens when you start to unlock the power of your mind. And you are a potential genius. But until you begin to stir that cup, which you do when you write down answers to this question, until you begin to stir your genius, it just sits there untouched. Well, the next key principle is concentration. Now, concentration is what you do is once you've decided on the most important idea to achieve your most important goal, then you have to concentrate single-mindedly on one thing until it's complete. Bill Gates and Warren Buffett, the richest man in the world and the third richest man, were at a dinner party at Bill Gates' home last year. And there were about 100 guests, and they were standing around at the reception, drinking wine and so on. And these three men, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, and Bill Gates' father, are good friends. And so they were standing, talking, and one of the other guests came up and said, "Excuse me, gentlemen, you are three of the most important people in the world. What would you say is the most important key to success today?" And they stopped talking, and they all turned, and they said, "Focus. Focus is the most important quality for success today." We're so surrounded by so many distractions of so many kinds that the ability to focus is more important for success than any other quality. Now, I developed a philosophy when I was young and broke. And the philosophy was that if rich, successful people tell you to do something, you should do it. If they tell you that this is a key to their success, then you should at least practice it for a while to see if it applies to you. What I have learned, and what I learned coaching my clients, my business owners, is I taught them how to focus. I taught them how to select specific goals and activities in each area of their life and how to focus like a laser beam on one goal at a time. If you can do that, you can conquer the world. Now, I'm going to give you a law that is my favorite law of time management, and it's called the law of three. And this law alone will enable you to be one of the most productive and successful people in your world. The law of three is based on my 30 years of study into time management. And what it basically says is that if you make a list of everything that you have to do in a week or a month, you'll come up with 20 or 30, some people write down 40 or 50 tasks or activities. But if you look at this list, you'll find there's only 3 activities that you engage in your life that account for 90% of the value that you contribute in your life. Wherever you are in life, there's only 3 things that account for 90% of your happiness. It's only 3 things. This law of 3 works everywhere, and it works for everyone. It works if you're a doctor or an investment banker or a salesperson or a business owner or a student. Whatever, there's always 3. And so what you do is you make a list of everything you do, and then you ask 3 questions. Question number 1 is that if I could only do one thing on this list all day long, which one activity would have the greatest positive impact on my life? Or you could say, if I could only do one activity all day long, which one activity would help me to double my income faster than anything else? And that answer is usually pretty obvious. So you put a circle around that. And then you ask it again. If I could only do 2 things all day long, what would be the second most valuable thing that I could do? And you go through your list and you come up with number 2. And then you ask the question the 3rd time, if I could only do 3 things all day long, what would be number 3? And you circle it. Now, I put every one of my students through this exercise, and they're all astonished because in a few minutes they see clearly that these are the 3 most important things that they do in achieving their goals of health, wealth, and happiness. And so the rule is this, is do fewer things in your daily life, but do more important things. And do them more of the time, and then get better, improve in each one of those areas. So in your life, there's 3 things that you do that are more important than everything else. And these will change over time. But you must be clear about those 3 things, and if you start working on only those 3 things, you will double your productivity, performance, and output very quickly if you can concentrate on the 3 most important things you do. Now, I'm happy to say I am the best time management author in the world. I have been published in 42 languages. I've sold maybe 10 million copies of my books, including all over the Russian Federation. And I have found the most important time management or personal productivity principle of all. and I will share it with you, and it is this, is make a list of everything you do in the morning before you start work, and then select the one item on that list that's more important than any others in terms of potential consequences, and then start on that one task, and then work on it 100% of the time until it's complete. Now, if you can do that, you can double and triple your productivity, become one of the highest paid and most respected people in your world. Select your most important task, start on it immediately, work on it 100% of the time until it's complete. Because here's what I discovered in 30 years of studying and writing books on time management, is that task completion is the key to success. It is not tasks that you work on, but it's only the tasks that you complete. If you're a student, it's completing your assignments and your reports. If you're a salesperson, it's completing the sales. If you're a business person, it's completing different transactions. Everything in life is completing tasks. Now here's a wonderful payoff. When you complete an important task, it gives you an increased sense of self-esteem and personal power. Your self-confidence goes up. You get more energy and more ideas. You feel happy about yourself. Whenever you complete a task, your brain gives you a rush of endorphins. And endorphins make you happy and more alert and more creative. They strengthen your immune system so that you're never sick. So you'll find that what successful people do is they're always starting and completing tasks. And especially they start and complete them on time. Now what does this require? It requires our old friend and enemy, self-discipline. Now the sixth key for success is called continuous learning. I told you before that when I came across continuous learning, almost like tripping over something in the dark, I couldn't believe it. What it said was that you can learn anything you need to learn to achieve any goal you can set for yourself. There's no limitations on what you can learn. You have more potential than you could use in 100 lifetimes, that you can learn anything. This to me was the greatest of all discoveries, is there are no limits on the kind of life you can have, because you can learn anything you need to learn as long as you continuously learn new things. And what's the magic formula? 10 hours a week. Read a little bit each day in your field. Listen to audio programs when you travel around. Go to seminars and take notes, as I said, and write down actions that you can take immediately afterwards. And just dedicate your life to becoming a student for the rest of your life. Every day you should be learning something new. Learning should be as much a part of your life as eating and sleeping and breathing. And if you'll do that, you start to go up the ladder of success faster and faster. You feel happier and happier. People respect you and look up to you. You feel we have more energy, and your self-esteem goes up, and your self-image improves. And you get it all from continuous learning, which is why these people go from the bottom to the top, and they're very happy people. They're very highly respected, and they feel wonderful about themselves, because growing and becoming better in your field is one of the most happiest and wonderful things you can do. So, I'm happy to tell you that we have Brian Tracy Academy in Russia. We have established it here since 2013, and we have put all of our programs onto video. We have personal success programs that explain these principles in great depth with exercises. We have personal sales success programs, the best sales success programs in the world if you or your company are in sales. And we have time management programs that show you how to organize every part of your life. So if you go out to at the break and you go on to the second level, you'll find Brian Tracy Academy, where if you'll put in your business card, we will log you in and send you programs to look at. Brian Tracy Academy also books me to do speeches and conferences and strategic planning and crisis management programs all over the country. And of course, you know that there's more than 100 of my books have been published in Russian, and every one of them is full of practical ideas that you can use to be successful. So if you would like more information on Brian Tracy Academy, Brian Tracy training, Brian Tracy videos, Brian Tracy books, Brian Tracy CDs, please go to the second level and put your business card in and get some information. My partner here is Sergey Lauga, and Sergey will answer any of your questions. And if you want to book me, ta-ta, Sergey will call you up and arrange it. Now, the seventh key to success is courage. And courage is really the most important thing of all. Every study of leaders for more than 3,000 years shows that leaders have courage. Now, they did a study recently of self-made billionaires. These are people who started off with zero, and in one lifetime, they have earned more than $1 billion. When I began studying self-made millionaires in 1980, there were about 1 million self-made millionaires and only 5 or 6 billionaires. Today, there's 10 million millionaires, and there's almost 2,000 billionaires in the world. Of the 2,000, two-thirds started with nothing. So they interviewed them earlier this year, and they said, what do you think is most responsible for your earning so much money? Many of them were immigrants. Many of them came from poor families. Many of them did not go to university, but they became billionaires. And it was not all in high tech. It was in furniture and fast food and retailing and automobiles, and it was in oil and gas and timber and a whole bunch of different fields. So they asked them why, and they found that there's three answers. The first answer was hard work and self-discipline. They said, I was willing to work harder than anybody else. I had the discipline to get up in the morning earlier. Self-made millionaires, by the way, start their workday before 6 a.m. They arise 3 hours before their first appointment. And usually they exercise, and then they plan their day completely, and then they learn something. And by the time the average person is waking up, they're already busy and active. Self-made millionaires and billionaires sleep an average of 8.5 hours per night. Very interesting recent discovery this year. They found the highest paid people sleep more than the lowest paid people. The self-made millionaires and billionaires, according to my studies, watch about 1 hour of television per day. And when they are not using their cell phone or their computer, they turn it off. They leave it off and they'll turn it on again several hours later. Poor people have the television or the cell phone or the computer on all the time. Last thing they do at night is they check their computer or their cell phone. First thing they do in the morning is they check their computer or their cell phone and turn the television back on. Does anybody know what I'm talking about here? Does this happen here in Russia? No. No. I can't believe it. So, the fact is that if you want to become wealthy, do what wealthy people do. The second quality of self-made billionaires is continuous learning. Warren Buffett spends 80% of his time studying every day, and he's one of the richest people in the history of the world because he keeps learning new things. The third quality of self-made billionaires, they said, is a willingness to take risks. It's a willingness to move out of your comfort zone. It's a willingness to try something new and different with no guarantees of success. In fact, I was in St. Petersburg talking with 3 business owners, and they were changing their whole business because of the current economic situation, and they were very worried because their first attempt wasn't working. And I said, it's okay. It takes 4 attempts to change your business model before you find one that works. Sometimes it takes 10 attempts. So therefore, don't ever be afraid to try something and fail, because the only way that we learn to succeed is by failing over and over again. So try, fail, and learn, then try again. Try, fail, learn, then try again. And if you'll do that, eventually you'll find the way that works. But you have to have the courage to take action with no guarantees of success. You have to have the courage to take action on your goals, and the action to develop your skills, and the action to deal with your problems. You have to have the courage to do things without guarantees. That's the hallmark of the most successful leaders and most successful people financially throughout history. Now, my time is almost up, so I want to leave you with 3 final points. No matter what has happened in the past, the future is unlimited. It's only limited by your imagination. And here's my 3 predictions for you and for Russia. Number 1 is you are going to make more money in the future than you have ever made in your life before. The financial possibilities for you in the future are unlimited. Number 2 is you're going to have greater happiness and success in the future than you have ever had in your life today. And number 3, your greatest achievements in life lie in the future. And the future is limited only by your own imagination, so there is no limit to what you can be and do in the future. Thank you very much for the day. Thank you. Большое спасибо. Большое спасибо.